January 3rd, 2026, 2 a.m. Caracas goes dark. The entire city plunges into blackness as power grids fail without warning. Above the Venezuelan capital, the sound of rotor blades cuts through the night. Then, explosions. Massive fireballs erupt across military bases as missiles rain down from the sky. Fort Tiuna, the main military garrison, erupts in flames. La Carlota Air Base disintegrates under precision strikes. Air defense systems shred apart before they can even respond. Within 30 minutes, the United States military will do something it hasn't done in over 3 decades. Capture a sitting president and fly him out of his own country in handcuffs. This isn't a movie. This is Operation Absolute Resolve. And by sunrise, Nicolas Maduro, the dictator who ruled Venezuela for 12 years, will be in a federal detention cell in New York City, facing life in prison. But this story doesn't start with explosions. It starts 4 years earlier with a federal indictment that everyone thought was symbolic. March 26, 2020. The United States Justice Department announces charges against the president of Venezuela: narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, weapons trafficking. The prosecutors claim Maduro has been running the largest drug trafficking operation in the Western Hemisphere for over 20 years. They offer a $15 million reward for information leading to his arrest. Maduro laughs it off on state television. He's untouchable in Venezuela, protected by military loyalists and Cuban intelligence operatives. The indictment is theater. America can't touch him. For 4 years, he's right. The indictment sits in a Manhattan courthouse collecting dust. But in November 2024, something changes. Donald Trump wins the presidency again, and he has a very different view of foreign drug traffickers. According to the indictment, since 1999, Maduro and his inner circle partnered with the most violent cartels on earth: the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, and the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. They turned Venezuela into a narco state, a cocaine superhighway, where drugs flow freely as long as the right people get paid. The State Department estimates that by 2020, between 200 and 250 metric tons of cocaine moved through Venezuela annually. Not grams, not kilograms, tons. Maduro allegedly didn't just allow it, he orchestrated it. The indictment claims he negotiated multi-ton cocaine shipments directly with FARC commanders. He provided military weapons to narco-terrorists. He sold Venezuelan diplomatic passports to drug traffickers so they could smuggle money from Mexico back to Caracas under diplomatic cover. One specific allegation stands out. Between 2006 and 2008, when Maduro served as Venezuela's foreign minister, prosecutors say he personally called the Venezuelan embassy in Mexico to notify them that a diplomatic mission would arrive by private plane. Drug traffickers would meet with the Venezuelan ambassador under the guise of official business. Meanwhile, their plane was being loaded with millions in cash. When the meeting ended, the plane flew back to Venezuela. No customs checks, no inspections, just briefcases stuffed with narco dollars. But here's the darkest part of the indictment. Anyone who threatened their operation disappeared. The charges allege Maduro ordered kidnappings, beatings, and murders against people who owed him money or threatened to expose him. For over 20 years, according to prosecutors, Maduro weaponized cocaine against the United States, deliberately flooding American cities with drugs to enrich himself and destabilize his enemy. But in 2020, he's sitting in a fortified compound in Caracas, surrounded by armed guards and protected by a military he controls. The indictment is meaningless without action, and in early 2025, the action begins. August 2025. The CIA sends a covert team into Venezuela. Their mission is singular: find Maduro and track his every move. For months, they operate in the shadows, recruiting sources inside the Venezuelan government. One source, described only as someone close to the president, provides detailed intelligence on Maduro's daily routines: where he sleeps, how he moves, and when he's most vulnerable. At the same time, the Pentagon begins a massive military buildup in the Caribbean. The USS Gerald R. Ford, America's most advanced aircraft carrier, sails into position. More than 15,000 troops stage in the region. September 2025. The Trump administration begins conducting strikes on boats suspected of drug trafficking. Over 115 people are killed in these operations. The message to Maduro is clear. We're coming closer. December 2025. Deep inside a classified military facility, Delta Force operators are training on a life-size replica of Maduro's safe house. Trump later describes it as identical to the real compound, with all the same steel reinforcements, the same security doors, the same layout. Commandos rehearse the breach again and again. Helicopters practice night insertions. Intelligence satellites map every inch of Caracas. This isn't a hypothetical plan anymore. It's a ticking clock. January 2nd, 2026. Delta Force operators are staged and ready in the Caribbean, waiting for the green light. Late that night, the sky is clear. Trump gives the order. Launch Operation Absolute Resolve. 3:29 a.m. Eastern Time. Over 150 American aircraft take off simultaneously. B-1B Lancer bombers, F-22 Raptors, F-35 Lightning fighters, EA-18 Growler electronic warfare planes. Helicopters from the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the elite Night Stalkers. This is the largest American military operation in Latin America since the 1989 invasion of Panama. As the Armada approaches Venezuelan airspace, U.S. Cyber Command strikes first. Power grids across Caracas collapse. Communications networks go silent. Maduro's compound is blind, deaf, and isolated. Then the bombers arrive. Missiles streak through the night, slamming into Venezuelan air defense systems before they can respond. Fort Tiuna explodes. La Carlota Air Base disintegrates. The goal isn't to invade, it's to create a corridor, a safe path for the helicopters carrying Delta Force into the heart of Caracas. Venezuelan troops scramble to respond, but they're fighting in the dark against an enemy they can't see. One Venezuelan anti-aircraft position manages to damage a U.S. helicopter, but the aircraft keeps flying. Nothing stops the operation. Inside Maduro's compound, alarms are screaming. Security guards shout into dead radios. The president knows what's happening. His compound is built like a fortress, reinforced steel doors, a fortified safe room with walls designed to withstand explosives. According to Trump's later account, Maduro tried to reach the safe room as the helicopters descended, but he wasn't fast enough. 2:01 a.m. Caracas time. Black helicopters touch down inside Maduro's compound. Delta Force operators pour out, night vision goggles illuminating the chaos. Behind them, FBI hostage rescue team agents follow. This is a dual operation: military capture and federal arrest. The commandos breach the compound doors in seconds, exactly as rehearsed. Gunfire erupts as Cuban intelligence officers defend their positions. The operators push through, neutralizing resistance. They find Maduro attempting to close the steel door to a safe room. He doesn't make it. Operators grab him before he can seal himself inside. His wife, Celia Flores, is detained simultaneously. Both are zip-tied, blindfolded, and hustled to the helicopters. Trump later reveals the military had prepared to cut through the safe room's steel walls with blowtorches if Maduro locked himself inside. But it was unnecessary. The entire raid, from touchdown to extraction, lasts less than 30 minutes. By 4:29 a.m., Maduro is aboard the USS Iwo Jima, an amphibious assault ship waiting offshore. He's wearing a gray Nike Tech tracksuit, blindfolded with a black band, noise-canceling headphones clamped over his ears. Trump posts a photo of him on Truth Social. The image becomes instant global news, but the operation wasn't bloodless. Days later, Cuba publishes a devastating list. 32 names: Cuban military and intelligence officers killed during the raid. Colonel Jose Ramirez Perez, 48 years old. Lieutenant Marcos Sanchez Torres, 26, ages ranging from 26 to 60. These weren't Venezuelan soldiers. They were Cuban operatives embedded in Maduro's security apparatus. A Venezuelan official later confirms at least 40 total deaths. Soldiers, civilians, members of Maduro's security detail. Back in Caracas, fires burn across military installations. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez goes on state television. She calls it a kidnapping, an act of war, a violation of international law. She's technically correct. The United Nations Charter prohibits exactly this kind of operation, but international law doesn't have an enforcement mechanism against the United States military. By mid-morning, the USS Iwo Jima is steaming toward the United States. At noon, Trump holds a press conference at Mar-a-Lago. He's triumphant. Quote, "We didn't lose anybody, not one casualty." He describes watching the operation in real time. He never mentions the 40 dead. He never mentions the Cuban officers. Attorney General Pam Bondi announces that a new superseding indictment has been unsealed. Maduro, his wife, his son, and several high-ranking officials are charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and weapons trafficking. Bondi's statement is uncompromising. Nicolas Maduro and Cilia Flores will soon face the full wrath of American justice. But not everyone is celebrating. Across Latin America, governments issue condemnations. Colombia rejects the aggression. Brazil calls it a dangerous precedent. Mexico demands an emergency United Nations Security Council meeting. Russia and China deliver blistering condemnations, characterizing the operation as armed aggression. The council is split, paralyzed, unable to act. In the United States, the reaction splits along partisan lines. Republicans praise Trump for decisive action. Democrats accuse Trump of launching an act of war without congressional authorization. But there's a deeper contradiction that critics seize on immediately. Just weeks earlier, Trump pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, who was convicted in U.S. federal court of trafficking over 400 tons of cocaine. Hernandez was serving a 45-year sentence. Trump freed him. Now Trump is prosecuting Maduro for essentially the same crime. By Saturday afternoon, Maduro's plane lands at Stewart Air National Guard Base in New York. Federal agents escort him and his wife to a detention facility in Brooklyn. On Monday, January 6, 2026, Nicolas Maduro stands before a federal judge in Manhattan. Wearing a dark suit, he speaks clearly. "Not guilty. I am innocent." Then he goes further. "I am still president of my country. I am a prisoner of war. I was kidnapped from my home." His wife, Cilia Flores, pleads not guilty moments later. Their attorney, Barry Pollock, signals the defense strategy immediately. They will assert head of state immunity. They will challenge the legality of what he calls a military abduction. The argument is straightforward. You can't kidnap a sitting president from a sovereign nation and then prosecute him in your courts. The judge is unmoved. Bail is denied. Both defendants are remanded to federal custody. The trial will take months, maybe years. But back in Venezuela, chaos reigns. Delcy Rodriguez declares herself acting president. The military is fractured. Some units remain loyal to the old regime. Others quietly signal they're open to new leadership. The Trump administration announces it will run Venezuela until a proper transition occurs. What that means remains unclear. International observers warn this could spiral into civil war. Venezuela's institutions are shattered. The economy is already in ruins. Now the government is decapitated, and a foreign power is calling the shots. For the first time in over 30 years, the United States military captured a foreign head of state and brought him to American soil to face trial. The last comparable operation was the 1989 capture of Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega. This is unprecedented in modern geopolitics. The legal and moral questions are immense. Does the United States have the right to arrest foreign leaders accused of crimes against Americans? One thing is certain: January 3, 2026 will be remembered as the night a superpower reached into another country, grabbed its leader, and flew him out in handcuffs. Whether that's remembered as justice or imperialism depends on who's telling the story. But for now, Nicolas Maduro isn't laughing anymore. He's inmate number pending assignment at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn.